Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today, well, it's pretty straightforward but really vital. We're digging into a stack of sources that honestly reveal some intense volatility, a lot of friction points facing the people who keep this whole country moving. That means you, the
Yeah,
drivers.
exactly. We're looking at everything from, the regulatory offices way up high, right down to the pavement, the local
We're
issues.
setting the stage for how these major shifts, politics, new rules, and yet technology speeding way up are all kind of colliding right now.
That's right. The goal here is really to unpack these constant pressures
Mhm.
and, explore that tension between safety enforcement, which is necessary, and the often brutal daily reality drivers are dealing with.
And hopefully identify some pathways toward a bit more stability and fundamentally getting the respect this job deserves.
Exactly.
Respect.
And we've got a lot on the plate. We're talking new leadership at the FMCSA, state-level fights over CDLs, enforcement crackdowns that feel interesting.
City bans, too. Right. City bans, new truck tech from Volvo, that's a big one. And this rising idea that drivers really need to secure their own financial future, using off-duty time, maybe even tools like AI.
It's a lot to cover, but it's all connected.
Okay, let's start at the top then, the federal level. The big news is Derek Barr's confirmation. He's the new FMCSA administrator.
Yeah, you see the big industry groups, TCA, ATA, saying they're beyond thrilled. They like his forward-thinking approach.
Okay, beyond thrilled. Why? What's the background there?
Well, it really comes down to his history. He was Florida's chief of commercial vehicle enforcement. So he's got this deep background in, let's say, tactical state-level law enforcement.
Right, roadside inspections, HOS enforcement, that kind of thing.
Exactly. He's known for being firm, data-driven, but, the big question everyone's asking is, if your whole career is enforcement,
Does he really get what it's like behind the wheel? The day-to-day grind.
that's the question. Does he understand the logistics side, the pressures drivers face beyond just compliance?
And you definitely see that skepticism from drivers. We saw this one owner up, I think, out of Missouri, who basically said, unless he's filling potholes and fixing ELD headaches, I don't really care who signs the memos.
Yeah, that cuts right to it, doesn't it? Drivers need less friction, not just, better ways to be monitored.
So, given that enforcement background, is it likely he just doubles down on that? Or is there any sign he might actually push for more flexibility for the driver?
Well, that's the central tension, isn't it? What we need to watch. The thinking is his data-driven thing, that suggests maybe a shift. Not necessarily broad reform, but maybe more laser-targeted enforcement,
Leaning.
meaning more tech integration.
Yeah.
Maybe AI-driven inspections down the line. A real crackdown on the genuinely unsafe carriers, the really bad actors.
Okay, so the hope is smarter, not harsher enforcement. Focus on repeat offenders, not just honest mistakes.
That seems to be the hope among drivers, yeah. And he's also expected to look again at ELD abuse, the electronic logging devices. That's a huge pressure point.
Okay, so that's the policy side. Let's connect that to the hardware. What happens when these policies meet the actual truck? Volvo just dropped their new V&L, first big redesign since, what, 1993?
Yeah, a long time coming. And they're claiming, 10% better fuel economy, better comfort, lots of new digital tech.
And that tech piece is where it gets interesting, right?
It really highlights the kind of double-edged sword of new tech in trucking. For a company driver, sure, the comfort upgrades sound great. Better insulation, quieter cab, that fancy new digital dash.
But for an owner-operator,
For an owner-operator, the analysis kind of stops at complexity, doesn't it? We all know reliability trumps luxury out there. And these super complex digital systems, that usually means higher repair costs, more time in the shop, maybe needing specialized dealer service.
that's the immediate worry. But then there's the bigger picture issue. Volvo is actively testing an autonomous, driverless version of this same truck down in Texas right now.
Exactly. And that raises the long-term threat. It's not just about repair costs anymore. It's about accelerating consolidation in the industry.
How so?
Well, think about it. If this new tech is designed to be super complex and eventually autonomous, it potentially pushes the independent owner-operator further out. They likely can't afford the complexity, the repairs, or compete head-to-head with massive fleets that can just snap up autonomous systems when they're ready.
So drivers are left asking, Is this tech really built to help me stay on the road, or is it just paving the way for my replacement eventually?
That's the existential question hanging over this tech. It forces that conversation.
Is that replacement imminent, though? Or are we talking specific routes first? Maybe some kind of shield for human drivers for a while?
The sources suggest, yeah, probably corridor specific at first. Maybe running freight between big hubs like Dallas and Houston or Dallas and Chicago. But the psychological impact, that's here now.
Just knowing it exists adds another layer of stress.
Absolutely. Financial anxiety on top of an already unpredictable job.
Okay, so while DC is worrying about the tech of tomorrow, state capitals are messing with drivers' livelihoods today. Let's pivot to these state-level clashes, especially around CDLs and immigration status.
Right. Texas, for instance, recently stopped issuing commercial driver's licenses to refugees, asylum seekers, DACA recipients. They called it a compliance adjustment.
A compliance adjustment.
Yeah.
But these are people who are legally here, right? Vetted drivers.
Exactly. They have lawful status. And this isn't a small number. Over 14% of all U.S. truckers are immigrants. Losing access to qualified drivers like that, it's going to hurt, especially in a huge freight state like Texas that needs drivers badly.
And the legal complexity is just mind-boggling. You have Texas doing that, but then compare it to states like California or New York. They legally issue CDLs to undocumented immigrants under their state laws. Then you throw in Oklahoma arresting 125 people for supposed CDL identity fraud, and the governor basically warning drivers with licenses from sanctuary states to stay out.
It creates absolute chaos for commerce. Forget the politics for a second. If a driver gets a license legally in State A, what happens when State B decides that license isn't valid and detains the driver halfway through a run?
It's a legal nightmare waiting to happen.
It's a ticking time bomb for interstate freight. Massive uncertainty, massive fear for any driver just trying to cross state lines and do their job.
And that pressure, it trickles down from big policy fights to, well, daily friction during enforcement. Like in Indiana, issuing tickets for vague language violations.
Yeah, basically weaponizing language skills. An officer decides a driver couldn't speak or read English well enough during an inspection, and boom, citation.
Which raises huge questions about discretion, maybe even profiling, right? Especially when the industry depends so much on foreign-born drivers.
Absolutely. Do these tickets actually improve safety? Or do they just generate revenue, cause stress, and make drivers feel targeted? It forces drivers to constantly look over their shoulder.
And it's not just single states. You see friction with these multi-state operations, too. Wyoming and Colorado did a joint enforcement blitz near the state line recently.
Right, and drivers reported getting stopped twice, basically back-to-back inspections. Long delays for often minor stuff.
So instead of feeling like a safety push, it feels more like a coordinated hassle, maybe a revenue grab.
That's the perception.
Yeah.
A joint hassle that penalizes operators who haven't done anything seriously wrong. It just adds to the burden.
Okay, let's shift down even further to the local level. Cities trying to fix problems, but maybe without fixing the root causes, like infrastructure. Southwest Detroit banned trucks from using certain residential streets as shortcuts.
Yeah, like the streets between Verner Highway and I-75. The goal was to cut down noise and pollution for the people living there.
And look, residents have valid points, right? Noise, road damage, safety concerns from big rigs on small streets. It's understandable.
Totally understandable. But the drivers, they aren't joyriding through neighborhoods. They're taking those shortcuts for reasons.
Like what? Avoiding dangerous merges? Saving time?
Both. Maybe shaving 15-30 minutes off a run, which matters with hours of service. Avoiding a really tricky, congested merge onto the freeway. Or, and this is crucial, trying to find any safe place to park when the official truck stops are overflowing.
So banning the trucks is like treating the symptom, not the disease.
Exactly. It's a short-term fix that puts all the burden back on the driver.
Yeah.
The practical result. Delayed deliveries, maybe higher fuel costs because they have to take a longer, more congested route.
Which eats into their available driving hours.
Right. And it completely ignores the real need. Dedicated truck routes that work, secure staging areas outside residential zones, and frankly, better truck-specific GPS that's actually reliable.
So, again, the driver gets treated like the problem, not the essential service provider.
Pretty much the theme, yeah. They're the backbone of the city's economy, delivering everything, but they're often treated as an obstacle.
Okay, but there was one small piece of good news on infrastructure, right? Colorado reopened the I-70 Vail Pass rest area.
Yeah, after a really long closure. And it seems like a minor thing maybe, but it speaks volumes about priorities or lack thereof.
How so?
That rest area, especially on Vail Pass. That's survival infrastructure. You need safe places to pull off in mountain conditions. For brake checks, for required rest periods, it's absolutely critical.
So whether it's a city banning trucks or a state neglecting a vital rest stop.
The synthesis is kind of the same, isn't it? Despite delivering everything we rely on, the systems surrounding truckers are often contradictory, inadequate, forcing them into impossible choices between compliance, safety, and just getting the job done efficiently. There's just not enough support.
Okay, so we've painted a picture of pretty constant flux. New federal boss, shifting state rules on who can even drive, local bans popping up, the shadow of automation getting longer. What does all this uncertainty, this kind of hostile environment mean for the individual driver trying to make a living?
Well, the sources we looked at, especially voices like Hervey over at LifeAsATrucker, they strongly suggest the answer lies in building independence, creating your own shield against all this volatility.
Independence how?
His philosophy is really powerful. He says, for all the pain and suffering drivers go through, the real long-term solution isn't just fighting for better hours, it's gaining control over your income, managing your time not just for the shippers or dispatch, but for yourself, for your own financial future.
And the specific advice we saw was training drivers to use AI and other digital tools to create extra income streams, recurring income.
Yep, that's the practical application. But how does, making a few extra bucks on the side really help if you get slapped with a huge fine because of some confusing state CDL rule?
Right, how does that scale?
Well, that's the critical link people are making. It's about creating leverage, financial leverage. When the regulatory world, like that Texas CDL decision, or technology like those autonomous Volvos being tested, can basically pull the rug out from under your main income stream.
Having something else provides a buffer, a plan B.
Exactly. It acts as a shield, as Hervey puts it, from some of the ups and downs of freight rates in the economy. It's about building resilience.
Okay, but practically speaking, drivers have demanding hours, limited off-duty time. How do they realistically engage with AI tools or build online income streams? It sounds time-consuming.
That's where the efficiency of current AI tools comes in, potentially.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a coding expert or spend hours writing anymore.
How does it work then?
Well, think about it. A driver could use AI tools to quickly turn, say, their daily log summaries, or just interesting observations from the road, maybe even affiliate links for gear they use and trust, into unique blog posts or social media content.
While waiting for a load, maybe?
Exactly. Turning that downtime into productive time. What might have taken hours before now maybe takes minutes. It's about options. Financial freedom comes from having options, not just working harder in the same volatile system.
So using these tools, even while still driving, allows people to plan for retirement on your terms, as Hervey says, not just subject to the whims of politics or tech advancements.
That's the idea. Building that independence, that plan B, gives you back some control.
So let's try and wrap this up. We've looked at how policy at basically every level, federal appointments, state CDL chaos, local infrastructure gaps, it's all creating this constant churn, this uncertainty for drivers.
Yeah, the industry desperately needs you, the driver. But the systems you have to navigate, they're often contradictory, unpredictable. You're constantly forced to adapt just to stay compliant, stay safe, stay afloat.
Our goal here was really to connect those dots, show multiple viewpoints, link these policy and tech stories directly back to your daily reality out there on the road.
Yeah, we hope this deep dive helps you understand not just what's changing, but maybe why it matters so much for your ability to plan your own future.
And that brings us to our final thought, something for you to chew on. If all these new policies, all this new tech seems to consistently treat the driver as, well, disposable or easily replaced, then how much leverage does a trucker need to build outside the cab? In the form of passive income, new skills, whatever it might be, before they can actually demand and get the respect that this absolutely essential job deserves.
Maybe that road to respect starts, ironically, during your off-duty time. Something to think about.